Hello and welcome to round 11 coverage of Grand Prix Richmond, the format standard. I'm Brian David Marshall. I'm joined in the booth by Eduardo
Sejgalik.
Thank you. And we are underway with a Toolcraft exemplar from Jonah Gaynor. This may trip up an opponent if they weren't rooming together for this weekend and have talked extensively after playing. You might think you're playing some kind of old school vehicles deck or something, but Toolcraft exemplar, this is one of the cards in this red-white token deck. It's really just a go-wide strategy, and it's really looking to deploy a couple of limited stalwarts in charge and heroic reinforcements as its big payoff cards.
Right, and this might be flashbacks from standards of format past, but the Sheffield Dunes would be a hint that you're not facing quite the typical Mardu vehicles list, because this air quotes Mardu vehicles list doesn't have vehicles because it's about Servo Exhibition, Legion's Landing, Bomat Courier still there, Benelish Marshall, going wide. It's just that Toolcraft Exemplar is in the deck because it is such an efficient beater. We haven't seen it in a while because Goblin Chainwhirler, naturally killing it makes it a little worse than usual. But yeah, we have cards like Heroic Reinforcement. So this deck is really looking to go wide, and this is that Heroic Reinforcement's perfect example of both going wide and dealing pressure. And Jeff is on the draw with a creature that can't block. This is going to be a ton of damage coming in.
Yeah, Heroic Heart of Kiran is the play for him on turn 2. And let's see if Jonah Gaynor can punish him here.
Yeah, and we can kind of see that Bomat Courier in the front. Now, this is the hardest part of playing a token deck like this is, okay, do you have Chainwhirler or not? Okay, do they have it? Do they have it? And I'm just narrating like what I would be doing in this spot. Do they have it? Do they have it? Oh no, I really want to do this, but do they have it?
Oh, he's going to go with Servo Exhibition here.
Jonah went, okay, let's just go for it. Probably laughing about, okay, you don't have it. I'm hoping that you don't have it.
All right, gets in for 6 here. Quickly has Jeff Zhao down to 11.
Yeah, both laughing about how key that Chainwhirler would be.
And there's the third red. Is there a Chainwhirler coming up from Jeff Zhao? This is a deck he knows really well. No, it's Pia Nalaar.
And we have a game.
Yeah, Jeff Zhao played this Chainwhirler deck a few weeks ago in Providence. Went 11-4, feels very comfortable with it. And, he's been playing it for a few months, so Heroic Reinforcements would be beating here, by the way. Yeah. Not that we're 2 mana away from it, though, so not going to happen.
Right, but even land Benelish Marshall, if Jonah had access to Benelish Marshall and had drawn a land for it, anything here that acts as a pump effect would be really powerful, simply because Jeff has to either block wide with a 2-2 and a 1-1, which may not be the most, which when you're at a low life total isn't great, or have Heart of Kiran block something like the Scrap Heap Scrounger, but then you're taking a lot of other damage.
Well, here is Bomat Courier, and Joshua shrugs and says, everybody comes in.
Yeah, and all these creatures have an expiry date because of the potential of Jeff always drawing Goblin Chainwhirler. So Jonah here trying to push for damage, realizing there's no really great blocks from Jeff. Jeff probably here blocking, either Toolcraft, trying to control the board. The other option was to block something like Scrap Heap Scrounger with the goal of top decking Goblin Chainwhirler. I think actually here...
So Cruise Heart of Kiran. Are we going to see charge here?
There seems to be none. I don't think Jeff could have played around charge here. It was too much damage, so not much that Jeff could do about it. I actually think that blocking the Scrap Heap Scrounger may have been a tiny bit better here, but not by much. And the reason for that is Jeff is quite far behind. I would have needed to, I think, top deck Chainwhirler to have a good chance. Although, with 1 or 2 key threats and controlling the board, you just want to buy time until that point where your top-heavy threats are going to take over.
Plays another Toolcraft example. I can feel pretty confident that there was not a Chainwhirler in hand last turn, and Jeff would be required to draw one this turn in order to clean up his board.
Right, and I mean, you can play around cards, but the truth is, once you decide, well, this just wrecks me, but they don't have it now, you should play as if they don't have it and try to close the game before they have the capacity of drawing it. Because if the game stalls out, Jeff is going to take over. So Jonah here is trying to get to a position where he can deal pressure and force Jeff into uncomfortable play patterns.
Now, I can't tell you that Jonah has played against Chainwhirler 6 times before this in the tournament. 2 of his losses came against Chainwhirler decks, but he has beaten it 4 times.
Right, and Jonah did not enter this tournament not expecting to face the card. Probably played Charge as kind of a counter spell to the card. Goblin Chainwhirler in those matchups, not just the pump effect, but also the defense effect. 4 Benalish Marshall has cards that survive it naturally, like History of Benalia, making 2/2s. So Jonah is prepared and understands that it's not it's not always there, but if it is, there are ways to defend yourself.
All right, here comes the team into a. You see a little smirk from Jeff. He's like, ugh. Pia-Nalaar, a Heart of Kiran, a Thopter token, and Rekindling Phoenix.
If you're trying to stop the most damage here, you're probably chump blocking the Exemplar with Thopter, Phoenix on Scrap Heap Scrounger, and Pia on Bomat, which would make you lose 2. But if we were looking for the best board-centric block, Crewing Heart, blocking Exemplar, and Phoenix on Scrounger would be also a possible line. However, you would just lose to the card charge. But your opponent, but Jonah didn't play last turn in a spot where it would have been pretty powerful, so it would be a top deck this turn. So that, if I was Jeff, I would think that it's not there. So I would block in a way that assumes that my opponent does not have the card charge. Blocking Phoenix on Exemplar is really strange because of the first strike.
Yeah, Kindling Phoenix gets first struck here.
I guess this is fine, actually. I mean, I guess I would have changed the Thopter onto Exemplar and had the Phoenix on Bomat, just so you don't have that token. There's no real way for Jonah to punish the 0/1 token, but it's just a tiny bit more efficient.
And there is History of Benalia, and now a 2/2 token. Night token is going to come into the battlefield. Rekindling Phoenix comes back for Jeff Zhao. He's at 3.
Yeah, Jeff is just looking to deploy. The thing with these black-red decks is that they have a lot of 3, 4, 5 mana spells, and it's when you're facing a token deck, if you don't have Goblin Chainwhirler, you have to roughly double spell in a turn to catch up with what your opponent's trying to do. So these 3, 4, 5 mana powerful cards can be a liability in a matchup like this, especially one that, well, Hazoret's not on blocking duty, it's on crewing duty.
All right, there's Hazoret. There's a Bomat Courier. Bomat Courier also staying back, not a usual position for it to be in.
Right, Raging Goblin, raging less.
2 cards in hand for Jeff, so yeah, Hazoret cannot attack or block at the moment.
Little funny interaction. You could actually, later on, Jeff could actually sack the Bomat Courier as a way to surprise block with Hazoret if necessary. Although we're probably not getting to that stage because Jeff is at 2 low life total and will probably be forced to block.
Round number 2 of 5. You have 15 minutes to play. Please begin now.
I think I see 2 servo exhibitions in Jonah's hand. So if Jonah had a pump effect, this would have been a really easy turn. You just smash in and probably things will work out well for you. If we were looking at this combat, though, Hazoret would Crew Heart, and then Phoenix would also block. So that would mean that Toolcraft Exemplar gets blocked by Heart, Phoenix would eat the Knight, and then Bomat would trade with a servo, so you're only getting 1 damage. So actually here, there's not really a good attack for Jonah, and I think Jonah's better off just playing that servo exhibition and passing. I think Jonah with the right line here.
Right, remember one of those Knights summoning sick from this turn. And did he find a Chainwhirler?
I mean, that's what you need.
There was a nice little smirk there. He's like, oh, sorry, buddy.
It looks like a Kari Zev.
Yeah, he had that in hand last turn.
And he also has Kari Zev's twin.
There you see Goblin Chainwhirler. It is the card that looms over this board, whether or not but it is not a card that Jeff has found yet.
It is the card that Jonah and Jeff are thinking about both very dearly. One probably with a little more dislike than the other.
All right, History of Benalia reaches its 3rd chapter. So those Knights get +2/+1.
Okay, I did hear a horrible pun story about History. I think we should spare our viewers the horror. But then again, it is a good bedtime story because it's about Night.
All right.
Here, though, okay, in strategic terms, what's going on here? Jeff has access to 4 blockers currently. Heart needs to be crewed, which would involve tapping one of the creatures anyways. So there are 4 blockers here. And Jonah has access to 7 attackers. Assuming Jeff does not have an effect, Jonah, by attacking with everything, would win here.
All right.
And Jonah's just going for lethal. If Jeff does not have a removal spell here, this game has ended. I believe. Let's see, 7 attackers. Yeah, 4 blockers. Yeah, that would be it. Although, 1 second. Yeah, there's no tricks you can do with first strike damage here.
We know one of the cards in hand is a carry Zev. We don't know what the other card is.
Here's something like a Braid plus red mana to sacrifice the Bomat would allow Hazoret to block, but then you're down a blocker anyways.
Yeah, so Jeff Zhao that never finds a Chain Whirler, and Jonah Gaynor gets to deploy an army of tokens against the red deck. Yeah, I'd be smiling too, Jonah, if I were you.
Yep.
It's pretty good there.
Dodge the chains.
Again, these two guys know each other really well. They are sharing a room together this weekend and play all the time against each other in New York. So what are we looking at out of sideboards here? I mean, if you want an answer to a Goblin Chain Whirler, wouldn't a Torpor Orb be a perfect card to foil that?
Yeah, Torpor Orb would be great, but that's not standard legal.
That's not standard legal.
But Tocatl Honor Guard is, though. 1 free human. Cannot remember the set right now. I believe Ixalan. That has the Torpor Orb text. And for those who aren't familiar with that, it's creatures entering the battlefield do not cause abilities to trigger. This card is coming in.
Human Soldier.
Right. We also see free Baffling Ends probably coming in an efficient way to deal with something like the Goblin Chain Whirler on defense. It also can deal with a Scrappy Scrounger if you're feeling under pressure. Not the perfect card, sadly, against Phoenix because it's power 3 or less, but still probably something that comes in a board-centric matchup of this nature. 1 cast out, very efficient answer to Phoenix. Chandra probably coming in.
Also smooths out your draws in the early game.
2 Dust On. Now that's going to be an interesting card, and Jonah's probably bringing it in. Essentially, Dust On, destroying all creatures with power 3 or more. There is an Aftermath that is returning all creatures with power 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. But the key is, you keep your board, your opponent doesn't have it. And this is what Jonah's going to morph into, this kind of weird white-red, semi-mid-range token deck. It reminds me of like the token deck from Khans of Tarkir when Hordling Outburst was out that made free goblins for free mana. That deck could play the aggressive role by making a ton of tokens, but it could also play the mid-range role because the cards were like Elspeth Sun's Champion and you could essentially dictate the board. We also see Shalai, Voice of Plenty, probably not coming in because your opponent is probably going to have Glorybringer and ways to kill it too efficiently as an afterthought. The Lyra Dawnbringers are nice. You know, since your opponent's forced to deal with your board, the Lyra comes over the top. Really, Aether Hub as well. And I think Jonah's sideboard is just going into this massive mid-range plan. Right. It's really interesting to see.
I assume that if you bring in Lyra and Dust to Dawn and cards like that, then that's where you bring in that Aether Hub and you go up a mana just in general in terms of your overall land count.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is something that more players need to do is 1 or 2 lands in the sideboard makes sense when you're boarding in more free 4 and 5 drops. I would actually argue looking at Jonah's mana base, which I'm counting out, at 22 lands, it's probably a little too low. So I would actually want to see 1 more land main deck on top. But, you know.
So now we talked a lot about that Chain Whirler for Jeff Zhao, where that he's almost like pre-sideboarded against this token strategy. What does he do post-sideboard? How much can he change against this deck?
Okay, so Zhao is not going to, Jeff at least, is not going to change much. The Doomfall, Chandra's Defeat, Arguel's Bloodfast, not really going to do much. Sorcerer's Spyglass Ivor. Duress is an interesting card. The thing is, most of Jonah's threats and creatures, well, they're token makers, so they are sorceries. So Duress is not that bad, but it's a very bad card to have in mid-range mirrors in general. So I think 1 to 3 Duress is okay. So how many you bring depends. I think on the draw, you're okay with 1 more just because it's more likely to cut. And I think that if Jeff knows Jonah's deck, he might bring in those Doomfalls. Even though there's a ton of tokens, if he can deal with those tokens and then Doomfall a Lyra, That's pretty powerful. The 2 Magma Sprays definitely coming in. The Hour of Glory, since they room together, Jeff knows big heavy hitters are coming in, so that's probably coming in.
I was just going to say, you've roomed with players going into a Magic tournament. Like, how often is it like, everyone's like you're trying to go to sleep and you're like, so what are people bringing in against you? What are you bringing in this matchup? How do everyone just constantly just brainstorming and trying to come up with tactical decisions. Okay, we are underway here, though, in Game 2. Jeff Zhao leads things off with a Soul Scar Mage. Gets in for 1 and follows up with Carry Zev, so he's on the front foot this game.
Right, and one of the things with the token deck is the way it's configured, it's not the best at actually blocking. Double blocking gets disrupted a little too easily. Prowess, First Strike are abilities that make double blocking much worse, and Scrap Heap Scrounger, I mean, well, that literally can't block.
Yeah, it's terrible at blocking. There's just no way around it.
If Scrappy Scrounger could block it, it would probably be one of the most egregious standard cards.
There's the duress you were talking about.
Right.
And it's going to see 2 copies of History, 4 token makers.
The thumbs up is amazing. Jonah knows. Jonah's like, thumbs up, that was the right time. But, sorry, got 2.
Yeah, History of Benalia, Servo Exhibition, and Heroic Reinforcements.
Yeah, and if Jeff was looking to get a card with that duress, it's History of Benalia. You kind of have to take it here. I mean, 1 history is bad, but 2 is atrociously awful for these black-red decks because there's no really efficient way to do it. And the fact that one of the reasons we haven't really been seeing these token decks outside of Goblin Chainwhirler is their History of Benalian is a very good card, but there's only 4 copies, and these decks really need that critical mass of cards.
Wow, he's going to take Heroic Reinforcements here.
All right, so privilege. So doesn't want Jonah to be able to deal tons of damage. To be honest, I still believe that taking history is probably correct. There's no easy way for Jeff to kill all these night tokens, and these 2/2s are going to be a problem. They allow Jonah to race. So if Jeff leaves History of Benalia, Jeff believes that Heroic Reinforcements would have been the card to swing the race.
Maybe he has another duress for next turn.
That is quite possible.
Knows he can't play both of them.
Yeah, it is quite possible, but Heroic Reinforcements wouldn't have been cast on turn 4 most likely, since it doesn't deal enough damage. It's usually the end of things. And the thing is, the second history kind of gives you that Heroic Reinforcements anyways, because you have a ton of knights. So I'm really surprised that Jeff took the Heroic Reinforcements here, actually.
So Carry Zev and Soul Scar Mage facing off against a Lone Knight token here.
I think Jeff, with that Phoenix, knows what's being played this turn. The key question is, how do you attack?
Yeah, just attacks with only the Carry Zev and the Ragavan.
There was definitely a world where Jeff doesn't attack with the Carry Zev, but Jeff feels that the Phoenix is very hard to get rid of by Jonah anyways, and there's no profitable attack here. Once the Phoenix is basically guaranteed to come back. So yeah, Jeff going, well, I need to put pressure, and Jonah's not gonna really go through this Phoenix anyways. But yeah, here, most likely we are going to see Jonah go for a second history of Benalia, but that Phoenix plus Carry Zev are really chipping away. The Phoenix will at least will be a free turn clock on its own, so we're going to start seeing Carry Zev go on defense, simply because 2 knights can block Carry Zev, and it would put Jonah down to 9. But 9 is a good life total. I think next turn we might see Jeff go all in attack to have 2 turns with a Phoenix. But the issue is that then you would lose your board, and the pump from history and then the pump from history is going to put Jeff in a tough spot.
You see Jonah getting his energy counter. He just played an Ether Hub. We know he has a History of Benalia in hand. We also know there's a Servo Exhibition.
Right. And yeah, there's no real great attack here, so I think you just play the second history, set up for some great swings. I mean, your knight would trade for a Phoenix, but in the process you're either killing Jeff's other creatures or dealing a ton of damage.
Here's a Toolcraft Exemplar.
Right, that's a really fast curve. And you can kind of see like how Jonas can configure his deck to fight Goblin Chain Whirler.
So one of those histories is going to, quote-unquote, ultimate here.
Yeah, what Jeff really wants here is a Glory Bringer. A Glory Bringer plus Phoenix would be a 2-turn clock. Attacking with Phoenix, blocking 2 of the Knights just to prevent as much damage as possible, going down to, let's see, 2 Knights, 1 Knight, 1 Scrap Heap, so like going down to 7, and then being able to play Glory Bringer and swing in for lethal. Now we can kind of see the duress on Heroic Reinforcements and reassess. Had the Heroic Reinforcements been, there would have been 2 tokens that were 2/2s, the Knights would have had 5 power, so assuming you do not attack, so at that point, there's also 1 Knight less though. And I think that's why I liked taking. I know that duress earlier was a while back, but it really changed the texture of this game down the line, because that duress was not about stopping something; it was about trying to think about the line 3 or 4 turns from there.
Right. So Jeff Zhao now trying to figure out what he's going to do. He's got a Chandra Torch of Defiance in hand.
Also, key card, that Magma Spray.
Yeah, I was going to say Magma Spray seems great.
Very likely we're going to see Jeff Magma Spray during Jonas' turn to pump Soulscar Mage to a 2/3, getting rid of that Toolcraft Exemplar.
Wow, and he just Chandra's away a Knight token here, showing a lot of respect for Jonah's ability to swarm next turn.
I think that was absolutely the correct line.
Yeah.
Any other mode on Chandra would not really have made too much sense here, so I really like this.
He may just go for the Magma Spray here. Considering it.
The rationale for Magma Spraying here, if your Soulscar Mage is going to chump block or not be involved in combat, then at that point you don't care about the Prowess Trigger. So it's a question of, I want to just make sure you're not going to charge me in response. Because if Jeff plays charge and wow, an attack.
So everything comes in.
Let's see, this is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Jonah essentially here should block in such a way that Phoenix is not a 2-turn clock, ideally. This is the objective. This might have been actually a really excellent attack. I'm just trying to parse through it, but let's see. Phoenix will come in for 4, so that's happening. So Jonah is at a virtual 7. You have Soulscar Mage, which you will probably let through, so that'll put you at 5. And at that point, you have Ragavan and Karizev. And I would say you could double block the Karizev with 2 Knights and have Toolcraft blocking Ragavan. But then if Toolcraft blocks Ragavan, you might as well block Soulscar Mage. And I know that's removing a lot of damage from Jonah's board, but the second history allows you to get an extra Knight and rebuild it. I don't think you can let Phoenix be a 2-turn clock, though. I think that's too dangerous.
All right, well, Jonah's trying to figure it out. He's also maybe thinking, well, what can I draw this turn if I don't block? So he just puts the 2 tokens, it looks like, in front of Soulscar Mage here.
Yeah, I think here Karizev is the bigger problem just because it's evasive damage. And when you're, right, and here you're taking 7 down to 4. That's actually kind of surprising that Jonah blocked like this. Rekindling Phoenix would be lethal next turn, which means that Jonah is forced to have an answer to Phoenix. Otherwise, Jonah cannot win this game. So it leads me to believe that Jonah is going to either has it or...
Wow. So he gets to take out both Knights with no loss to his own board thanks to the Prowess Trigger on Soulscar Mage.
Yeah.
Jonah falls to 4.
And that was the biggest rationale to essentially do double blocking the Karizev. Even if a Knight dies, the Karizev is alive, but your other Knight doesn't die. I think Jeff... that attack from Jeff was really well. I thought that was a really excellent play. I know I might have talked about the duress quite a bit, but I thought that exact attack was excellent recognition of one of the hardest board-centric concept in Magic, which is when do you attack to put your opponent's board in a position where they can't counter swing because they are forced to block in a way that advantages you. I thought that was excellent recognition from Jeff. Actually, that attack was stellar.
Yeah, and hold that well-timed Magma Spray to really just devastate Jonah's board.
Right, but with the magma spray, a lot of players may have been a lot more defensive there,
That's what I'm saying. You know, we talked about it initially. It was like, oh, okay. Then on Jonah's turn, he can deal with the Scrap Heap Scrounger. He can get a prowess trigger on his Soul Scar Mage. You know, it was all the stuff. But you know, he actually just he went into the red zone with it and used it perfectly.
And this is like the advantage of playing a deck you're comfortable with, as Jeff has mentioned. You know, played 2-11-4 in Province, has tons of experience with the deck and understands it. And you can see that that game was that exact payoff, because a lot of people want to pick kind of what's hot. And you see like deck familiarity as a much bigger concept in Modern and Legacy because they've played the deck for years. But having deck familiarity in Standard is a big edge. Yeah.
See some players along the rail looking at themselves on the monitor here. I was a little disappointed, by the way, yesterday. I know everything. Nobody brought a sign. I really wanted signs behind Reduke. I wanted to see, like, you know, some cardboard college game day signs. But, you know, maybe
That's
next
fine.
time.
Twitch chat gave
a lot
of energy.
Yeah. The support was definitely there. I would have liked a sign. I tried to find some cardboard to make a sign that said, I'm disappointed with the lack of signs. But maybe that's part of the problem, is the availability of Oak Tag.
I had the chance to visit my family in Peru, and we arrived at some point we just hear this like massive shriek of people at the airport, because there was like this K-pop boys band that had arrived with a ton of fans in Latin America, and all of them were so excited that they had like come to visit. So all of them were at the airport at like 11 p.m. cheering like, yeah. It was a surreal experience, one that you get because you know, cultures are different.
One of my
we need more of that in Magic. More like go, go, go.
One of my favorite stories in Magic is actually when Simon Nielsen and Martin Mueller and co won the World Magic Cup. When they went home to Denmark, there were 100 people waiting for them at the airport.
Wow! And
gave them that K-pop reception,
cheering
and going crazy for them. And it was such an exciting moment, and it meant so much, you know, to that Magic community, that people, you know, really made an effort to be there. And I thought it was fantastic.
And like you might notice during like the breaks where we're transitioning, waiting for other matches, you see like pictures of past tournaments. Keep an eye out.
For this one's great.
Gary Campbell, who won in Grand Prix Birmingham. There's 2 amazing shots of the Scottish community going nuts, because Gary's like over 50, like has helped all of them in the community, and it was just an excellent shot. But yeah, we're coming back to the game.
All right, here we go. Jonah Gaynor kicks things off here, and he has got a Legion's Landing off of a Concealed Courtyard. It says red-white tokens. There's a little bit of black in the deck, and again, that's for Scrap Heap Scrounger.
Right. It uses the Mardu mana-based philosophy, which is black mana is free to add to my deck because of Concealed Courtyard and Spire of Industry. So at that point, well, I'm good. I'm good with just... And there we go!
There it is! The Coddle's Honor Guard.
If you're looking for what to do after rotation, Legion's Landing probably going to see... I think Legion's Landing is a very powerful card. It just didn't have time to shine. And now you can see how Jonah is telling you, this is maybe what you want to do along with Ixalan cards.
All right, here is Kari Zev.
Kari Zev is actually one of my favorite Magic designs in the last year or 2, I guess. Just really cool card.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it.
But yeah, here... Okay, so on Navigation, the deployment of early turns is something that usually isn't covered too much in Standard, but it's really important because obviously you're forced, right? You have a 1-drop, you have a 2-drop. But it's also a question of how can you best set up for the mid-game. You're trying to build your deck in such a way that the advantages you accrue from those 1 and 2 drops can allow your 3 and 4 drops to cascade. Because if you're not putting, say, pressure or defending yourself in the early turns, it gives more value to these late game cards. When a 3 or 4 drop is the first card to be played, that gives an advantage to the player that was first on the board a lot of the time, because that 3 or 4 drop has less power, because it wasn't supported by this cast of 1 and 2 drops. Here, Jonah skipping turn 3, actually. Jonah was hesitating a little bit during Mulligan, it seemed. So this may this may be why. Or Jonah may just have powerful 4 and 5 drops and is just waiting to unleash them onto Jeff.
Jeff's trying to figure out what's going on here. He's got a PNLR in his hand.
And a Goblin Chain Whirler, I see.
And a Goblin Chain Whirler. Neither of them do anything.
Against that one free. Well, I mean, you still have a free first strike.
Yes.
But yeah, 2/2
nothing
for
as they enter the battlefield.
Grey Ogre, it has been a while since Grey Ogre was a playable Magic card.
And there is Goblin Chain Whirler, and it does not kill that token.
Still a free first strike.
Absolutely.
People forget how good people think about the ability a lot, but honestly, like the body is just gigantic a lot of the time.
Actually, we can really appreciate how good it is because even without that enter the battlefield ability, it's still going to be this dominant presence on this board.
Right. It prevents lifelink if Jonah decides to jump block with the vampire down the line, if that's where we're going.
All right, there's a 4th land for Jonah Gaynor.
So I'm trying to catch a glimpse of Jonah's hand, which, man, that hand cam we read yesterday. Being able to follow the action of our hero, those were moments. But here we're just we're not going to speculate, I think, too much on Jonah's hand here. Because of possible lines of play. But if Jonah did nothing on turn 3 and kept the hand, he probably has a lot of powerful late game.
Well, here's turn 4. He does have Heroic Reinforcements. It's going to put 2 1/1 tokens into play.
And you can kind of see Jonah's mana base working against him because Spire of Industry with no artifacts is just a colorless land, and Aether Hub got used. But yeah, here, deciding to attack, even though it's a suicide attack for one of these tokens, it is a lot of damage, and more importantly, a Dance of the First Fort comes out.
Absolutely. So he gets in for 6 here, not putting the Honor Guard at risk because it becomes a 2/4 thanks to that Heroic Reinforcements.
Yeah.
And now Adanto is online, and that's basically a Kaldron Outpost.
Oh wow, that's a callback.
He's able to just spit out a creature here. With nothing else to do with his mana, he's able to still put it to use and make a creature for 4 mana every turn.
I would happily pay 1 white mana for for that land, by the way. And that's what Jonah did. But the combination of the other cards allowed Legion's Landing to essentially be 1 white, Rampant Growth, and also into an exceptional land.
Down to the First Fort. Oh, by the way, Kaldron Outpost destroyed one of your lands when you played it. Down to the First Fort becomes an extra land. Wow. Head in hand for Jeff Zhao.
What's the plan? Okay, so what's the plan?
We know he's got a PNLR. Grey Ogre, as we called it.
Legendary Grey Ogre.
I can only play 1. He's got another Chain Whirler as well, it looks like.
Right, but at this point, Jeff may want to conserve that second Chain Whirler to try to draw into something like a Braid or Chandra. Anything that can deal with that Honor Guard. Because once the Honor Guard is dealt with, Jeff can then follow up right away with a Goblin Chain Whirler, wiping out the board, wiping Jonah's board of not just these 2 soldiers, but any vampires that may come out. So Jeff has to decide how to navigate, because PNLR not going to do anything, so probably has to stay. And Chain Whirler, probably not necessary on this board since the board is already dominant. So honestly here, with the pressure that's being put, I think Jeff is best to stay back and take some time.
He is going to play the Grey Ogre. PNLR, again, the Honor Guard keeping any enter the battlefield abilities from triggering here.
That is a very sad PNLR. She's just wondering what happened to the Fopter token.
There's Servo Exhibition.
Servo Exhibition has a really good utility mode, which is fix your mana. As you can see here, taking a point of pain. Servo Exhibition allowing the addition of red. Yes. I believe that gives haste to the team, so this would be quite the attack. I think, yeah, attacking with the Honor Guard here, good heads-up play. While Jeff could double block it, this is 12 damage, and that would put Jeff to 1.
Wow.
There is, though, actually, while going to 1 is, well, insanely risky. The truth is, Jeff has Chain Whirler. So if Jonah doesn't have much reach, and Jeff double blocked here, he would be able to, let's see, because this is 12 damage. Double blocking the Honor Guard would put Jeff to 1. However, Jonah doesn't have that much reach. Obviously, creating a bunch of vampires would be a problem, but Goblin Chain Whirler would be able to block everything. Okay, this is a much safer play. With Magma Spray, you can take 2 less damage, which makes a vampire token much less, not as lethal. And yeah,
All right, Jeff goes to 3, but he is going to be able to mop things up this turn with another Goblin Chain Whirler. This is...
And Jeff didn't need the Magma Spray. It was nice, right? Now you're not at risk from, let's say, a third Heroic Reinforcements. But it wasn't necessary, so that leads me to believe that Jonah maybe shouldn't have attacked with the Honor Guard in this spot. Although I understand why Jonah would have, just because your belief is there was already a Chain Whirler played, and you believe that you would be able to deal that point of damage later. But with Sheffet Dunes, I think attacking with just all the tokens was probably the right line, keeping the Honor Guard, and I think Jonah would have been able to win the game from this position. As stands, Jeff is presenting lethal damage, although Vampire token can get in the way.
There's a Doomfall. It sees Spire of Industry.
So Jeff should present a 2-turn clock, but I'm not sure about this attack. A Vampire token blocks a Chain Whirler. That leaves 3, 4, 5, 6 to come through. Jonah can top deck a Heroic Reinforcements. If
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this wasn't necessary. Jeff could have just kept back one attacker, I believe, and that might have been enough. Let's see, if you kept the Chain Whirler back...
Well, the token doesn't get to block yet. Let's see if he was giving Jeff a chance to respond before blockers were declared, but it looks like he's going to get to go there.
Let's see. Yeah, the attack would have been for free, and then you could have attacked next turn for lethal. Yeah, first strike does not kill Jonah here, so this would put Jonah to 2. This is the same as blocking a Chain Whirler, so probably blocking a Chain Whirler is just a tiny bit better, but it doesn't really matter.
6, go to 2, and then stay at 2.
Go to 2.
And there's a Scrap Heap Scrounger. That's not going to do anything. If there's a Heroic Reinforcements, that's the card that Jonah Gaynor needs off the top of the deck here.
That or Lyra Dawnbringer might do it. I haven't done the math on like Lyra, but yeah, the Honor Guard top deck is such a taunt. I think here you can play Honor Guard, you can make a token, but you're definitely taking lethal damage. The token can block the Scrounger, that would put... And then the Chain Whirler, yeah, we're done here. But yeah, I think that Jonah here could have attacked with
Actually, I don't even know that he has any red mana if he had drawn the Heroic Reinforcements.
Oh, actually, that's a really good point. Yeah, the hand was Spire. Okay, so there were no top decks. Sorry,
there were no top. Yeah, he didn't have them. He didn't have the energy for that Aether Hub.
Not even noticing the most obvious part.
And no artifacts for the Spire of Industry. Yeah.
But yeah. But yeah, I think this came back to that turn where Jonah kind of attacked with the Honor Guard. Had Jonah not done so, Jeff wouldn't have been able to kill the Honor Guard and then and take over this game. Especially with the Sheffet Dunes in play, I don't think there was a reason for Jonah to do it as well.
And that seems like maybe what he's thinking about right there. You see a little bit of a shake of the head as he and Jeff do a little post-mortem on their match. And Jeff Zhao gets to 9-2 here. He went 11-4 with this deck in Providence. Really knows it well.
Yeah, I was very impressed by Jeff's board-centric approach here.
Especially Game 2 was a game that you
even
thought
Game
was
3,
really
you're
difficult.
right. The lack of red mana means that there is nothing that Jonah can draw, which was right. So he noticed that probably. And then at that point, he recognizes, well, I'll just attack in, and there's nothing that you can do. So I thought that Game 2, that attack was really well thought out. Brilliant. So I really liked how Jeff, the rest, debatable, but the rest, I really liked how he played it out.
All right. Well, that's it for our main match action. We do have some more Player of the Year implication stuff coming up for you after these messages.